So I was thinking, I often show you guys all the projects, kind of the capital improvements of the pond, but one thing I've never addressed, at least I don't think I have, is what's it cost to keep this thing looking good? And so again, I'm not talking about the beach, which desperately needs raked. I'm not talking about adding a floating dock or a solar powered well pump or a shoddy little boat from Facebook Marketplace that's full of water, or even the aerator, or even the couple thousand fish that are in these turquoise waters. What I want to do is share with you the products that I use on this pond currently and give you a peek behind the veil at some of the costs associated with those products and what I spent last year. I see the goose has been back out here pooping himself. That looks like plaster. I think he needs some Pepto. That looks terrible. It hurts. Let's see what the water temp is. 69 degrees. It was about 72 last weekend, but it was 44 last night. So obviously there's a lot of dollars that go into things like a beach or the well pump I mentioned, or even this dock. So we built this pond in 2019 and I had never managed a body of water like this before. No experience, just a guy who knew what he wanted, but not sure how to put it all together. So I started doing research. And so far I've put together kind of a nice little package of stuff that has worked well for me. May not work well for you. I don't know what your water's like, your pond's like, but I've got a regimen that seems to work, and generally the pond looks pretty good. So let's go look at the golf cart and I'll show you what I got sitting over there. I would basically put your pond maintenance in kind of two buckets: proactive and reactive. Proactive, aeration is number one. You don't want to have a massive turnover in the spring or fall and bring, deoxygenated water to the top, kill all your fish. Not good. We'll talk about the aerator and the cost a little bit more later. Item number two is going to be beneficial bacteria. Beneficial bacteria is going to help you keep muck out of your pond. It's going to eat up all the nutrients in your water so that you don't have algae. And item number three is going to be pond dye. Some people hate this. Personally, I think it looks great. It's a little bit greened out right now because of how much rain we've had lately. But you don't have to get the deep blue color like I have. Blue, deep blue, black, like turquoise. You can get really any color you would want. This has worked well for me. It's 2.5 gallons, been the most economical. We'll talk prices in a minute. This is the reactive side of the golf cart, and kind of where you don't want to be. If you don't have to use this stuff, you're doing really well. Here in the back, we got granulated Cutrine Plus. This is my #1 algicide. I'm not going to treat with it today, but I'll show you how I use it here in a moment. And then you have the liquid version. I break this out when I have big heavy mats of algae, which is not too often. Tsunami DQ, this has got diquat in it. This is for aquatic vegetation control. I don't know if I mixed it up really strong last spring or what, but this stuff smoked the aquatic vegetation. I mean, it made Roundup look like water. And then a surfactant, which aids in the application of the Tsunami DQ and the algicide. For lack of a better term, it helps bond these chemicals to the growth. The old well pump's churning it out. Okay, cool, Adam. So those are the products you use. How often do you use them, and what do they cost? I'm so glad you asked. Let's start with the bacteria blocks. So each one of these pond blocks of bacteria, I got other videos of me using these, but it's just a big blue block. Each one of these blocks will treat 5 acre-foot of water for a period of 60 days. So our pond is just about an acre and 20 to 25 feet deep, depending upon where you are. And so I throw 4 of these in at a time, good for 20 feet, every 60 days. In the summers, sometimes I'll move that up to 45 days just so I know I have good bacteria going through the pond. But that's generally the time frame I'm following with these. Each one of these blocks is $56 before tax, and that is the best price I've found on these. I've been buying them from Amazon. I will put links below. I found if you can bundle this and a couple other things, maybe your paper towels, toilet paper, etc., coffee with the house, if you buy from Amazon, you can get, the discount, save a few bucks there. But every dosage, you're looking at $225 per dose every 60 days, and sometimes even more frequent before tax. One of those other proactive items, pond dye. Again, some people hate it, some people love it, but there's more than just the aesthetic to this. Pond dye is going to prevent sunlight from penetrating the water and getting down to the bottom where that algae can begin to grow. If you look here in front of me, you can see how the light fades out, and I actually did a video on does pond dye work a while back. Maybe I'll link that below. But you can see how you get 2 feet out there, you can't see anything once the depth drops. So cutting your edges in deeper on the pond will certainly help, but pond dye does a great job at preventing that sunlight from getting to the bottom. As I said before, pond dye is kind of as needed. How much outflow do you have? How much inflow do you have? Do you have any leaks like I do currently? You'll see the water change color when you start having water move through it, when you have water moving in and out of your pond, and you'll know. I typically dose it 60 or 45 days along with bacteria blocks because I go up my little John boat and do it all at once. And I've looked around quite a bit. This is far and away the most economical one I've found so far. There could be variants out there that are, you know, smaller in gallon size that are higher potency, but this is 2.5 gallons from Tractor Supply. I'll link it below. I've got about 6 or 7 of these empty jugs up at the house. And I didn't mention the cost. I have a cheat sheet that says the dye. The dye is also $55 for 2.5 gallons per dosage. So it's gonna add up pretty quick. The last item on the preventative maintenance list or the proactive list is going to be aeration. So I've had this pump out here now for 3 years, or whenever we stock the fish. It's a 1/2 horsepower rocking piston air compressor. There's a better look at it, kind of dirty. But that thing right now, electricity wise, I believe is pulling about 8.21 kilowatts per day. I did a video on that a couple years ago when I first put it in. That's what it was then, and I was using an extension cord going all the way up to the house. Could be less now because I probably have less draw running through it than I did before. But in our area of the country, that's good for about $1.04 a day, so call it $31, $32 a month. So if you factor those 3 items together on a monthly basis, you're looking at about $175 per month for those 3 items. Now, you might have the question, should I do bacteria all year long, dye all year long? I do run the aerator all year long. Probably some debate on that, where you're at in the country. I believe the bacteria is no good once the water dips below 40 degrees. So you could drop off in the dead of winter if you're in a place that has hard freezes like we do. The same with the dye. You're not gonna get a lot of algae growth in the winter time, so I typically will back off in the late fall and redose in early spring before things wake up. But again, the aerator runs 24/7, even in the winter. Well, I like to change scenery a little bit. I get tired of standing in the same spot all the time. So generally, my preventative solutions keep the pond looking pretty good. But on occasion, we'll go with no rain for a while. We'll get a big rise in temps, and we'll get a little bit of algae kind of running around the edge of the pond. Our algae is typically filamentous, grows from the bottom, kind of floats to the top, detaches, goes other places. And so we see it around the edges where we have sunlight making its way into the bottom of the pond. Prime example right here. You can see the sunlight penetrating through the water down to the sand, and then it just drops off when you get out there. You can't see the bottom at all. So given that we often have that kind of rim of algae more so than giant mats, I usually turn to the granulated version of Cutrine Plus. Used to buy this from Amazon. I'll link that below in case you can still buy it from Amazon. But Amazon will no longer ship this to Indiana for whatever reason. I don't understand how one supplier can ship to Indiana, but they can't. But now I bought this from thepondguy.com. And this is about $120 a bag before tax. This will last me 2 to 3 treatments, depending upon how severe it is. When I apply it, I typically put it in a bucket and walk around and just kind of hand spread it. I'm experimenting with doing a smaller spray or dosage when I do it, because I think maybe I'm overdoing it. I know you guys are shocked. I go through probably 4 or 5 bags of this summer. And on occasion, if I get a big mat of it, I will break out the liquid version. Sometimes I'll go out in the boat and spray it as well. This pond is now full enough that it catches enough wind off the field here that when we do have algae, it's kind of nice because it's been working its way all the way to the far corner. And if I come out here in the early morning, it's kind of all just sitting there waiting for me. And I can mix up, 4 or 5 gallons of this and spray it down. Effectively the same product, just different delivery mechanisms. And this is about 50 bucks before tax. The granulate is nice because it's extended release and it's on the bottom where it grows, so it kind of takes care of it. And then the surfactant. This helps adhere. I use Plexmate and this is about 25 bucks, but this will last you forever. This is kind of negligible. So if you kind of follow what I laid out here and you do the 45 or 60 days on the bacteria and stop it in the winter time if you'd like. I was doing most of 45s last year. I got your cost here, what you're gonna spend for a 1 acre pond, about 20 or 25 feet deep. So as I rattle off those prices and numbers, I'm sure there's no surprise that the bacteria is far and away the most expensive item. And you're looking at about 1,350 bucks in bacteria. Kind of blows my mind that stuff is that expensive. That is likely where I'm going to look to save money first. See if I can find something else out there that works as well and doesn't cost what it costs. Stuff's expensive, but generally it does a pretty good job. Next item on that list is going to be the granulated Cutrine Plus. Again, not cheap, 120 bucks a bag. You can get a little bit of a discount if you buy multiple bags, which is what I had recently done. I try to use it sparingly and let the bacteria and the dye do their thing. But again, not cheap, 600 bucks. Going top to bottom, the next most expensive item on the list is going to be electricity for the aerator. Spent about $380 on that last year. I could probably do some things there to make that more efficient as well. I still do have it off of a small extension cord from my barn out here. That would probably fix things. And perhaps I think about going to solar during the day and electricity at night. Still want to run it 24 hours when I can, but I should be able to cut some costs out of there at some point. Follow that with the pond dye at 330 bucks on the year. The Tsunami DQ, I only bought one of these last year and it's still mostly full. I hardly used it, but 120 bucks, that's probably not an annual purchase. The liquid version of the Cutrine Plus, 50 bucks for a gallon. And then the Plexmate Surfactant, 25 bucks for a quart. Again, not probably an annual buy. You put all that together and you say, I'm buying this is my annual package. You're looking at about $28.50 before tax. So by the time you factor tax in, over $3,000. I gotta say, when I sat down at the end of the year to do the math, I was pretty shocked. Over $3,000 to keep this pond looking like this, but I say it's worth it. There's so much utility in a body of water like this, and I would never trade this for a pool. And I never grew up with a pool. I had some cousins and friends who had pools, but I have no firsthand experience with a pool. I don't know what it costs to maintain a pool. Quick Googling, as one does, says between $2,000 and $5,000. So let's say we are on par with a pool. I'll take it. There are so many things you can do with this body of water that you can't do with a pool. Obviously, fishing, swimming, sure, but I can host 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. You get my point. I can host a lot of people out here. And at the end of June, we're gonna do just that. We're gonna host a birthday party for my niece, and we're probably gonna have 30 people out here. The aesthetic, fire protection, there's a list of about 10 or 12 things that really make a pond a wonderful investment. I'm gonna make a video about that at some point. I don't wanna bog this video down with that. But there is so much utility in a body of water like this. So now that I have all that data in front of me and know where all my dollars are going, but one thing I want to do in 2025 is try to save money on some of those items, but continue to provide, call it the service that I do to this pond. And with that, one thing I've thought about doing is adding barley straw. I don't know if you guys have heard about this or are familiar. If you are and you've used it, comment down below what your experience has been. But if you take barley straw and put it in like a mesh sack and put it 2 to 3 feet below the water so that it can decay, and the sack is to keep it from going everywhere, it will actually help prevent algae. It will not take the place of algicide, but it will help prevent algae from growing, kind of a lot like the bacteria do. And on Facebook Marketplace right now, at least where I live, I can go to a farmer down the street and pick up a bale for $9. This pond might need 20 to 30 pounds worth, so call it 2 bales, maybe 1, but for less than 20 bucks, I could treat for 2 months, I believe it is, 6 to 8 weeks. Something I want to try, so if you've done it, let me know down below. And this little area out here by the well pump actually kind of highlights some of the science and what I was talking about. This is one of the more gradual areas of the entrance to the pond. It doesn't fall off real steep like it does out that way or even up there by the aerator. And this well water has a lot of nutrients in it. So bacteria is going to feed off of this. And I've noticed in the last month and a half that this area, because A, the sunlight can make its way into some of the shallower water easier, and the fact that we've got a lot of water coming in here with a lot of nutrients, this area generates the most amount of algae in our pond. Science, son. Certainly a lot of money, but it's worth it. Heck, I would consider it health insurance, because when I'm out here, I feel like my blood pressure just drops. It's so calming and relaxing, and I would say it's the pride of our property for sure. So that may have been sticker shock for some of you, maybe not. Maybe you have a pond that's 4 times the size of this and you wish you spent $3,000 a year on maintenance supplies. At any rate, I hope that was helpful. Again, links for everything is going to be down below. If you have any questions about the products I'm using or how I'm using them, please comment below. I'm not a marine biologist, but what I'm doing seems to mostly work out here, so happy to help where I can. And speaking of maintenance, I reckon it's time I change the air filter in this thing. There's the outside, there's the inside. She got the black lung pop. Just gross. See you guys next time.